Overpumping of groundwater has become a big problem in California's San Joaquin Valley. So big that the ground is literally collapsing. What are the short and long-term implications of groundwater overdrafting the Central Valley for agriculture and the water quality of Valley residents? What are the possible solutions? We'll ask Alvar Escriva-Bou, a water expert with the Public Policy Institute of California.
Additional funding for the Maddy report made possible by a grant from The Wonderful Company, harvesting health and happiness around the world. From the California Channel at the State Capitol and the Maddy Institute, it's the Maddy Report with Executive Director of the Maddy Institute, Mark Keppler.
Welcome. When it comes to water, people think of dams, rain, snowpack, those kinds of things. But the answer could be well underground, no pun intended. Our guest is Alvar Escriva-Bou. He's a water policy expert with the Public Policy Institute of California. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mark.
So listen, let's talk a little bit about, get some background on where the water comes from. We've got the rain, we've got snowfall, we've got dams, we have delta. But how much do we get from pumping from water wells?
You know, that's a really good question. Actually, it's really important, the water we get from wells. It's in normal years about 40% of all water that we use in cities and farms. That also actually increases a lot in dry years, in droughts. Last drought we have 60% of the water were
60% of the water comes from in dry years.
Yeah,
okay.
And that's really important for especially for some communities that rely a lot only or solely in groundwater. So they are really sensitive to losing this source.
Okay, so what about places like the San Joaquin Valley? So we had this big drought in 2012, 2016. Apparently, a lot of groundwater pumping. What were the implications?
So we have always this thing on relying more on groundwater during droughts. So, but this actually add up to a chronic problem that we have in the valley. We have overdraft. That is what we are using more water than we actually replenish.
So overdraft means you're taking more out than you're putting in. Okay.
So what happens with that? We have many implications. We have dry wells because lowering groundwater tables takes some wells out of functioning. Then we have also sinking lands.
That's called subsidence, when the land actually sinks. Because the water's keeping the land, up, and then take the water up, the land sinks.
Yeah, and we have that, that causes problems with infrastructure, especially water infrastructure.
So you got the canals, then they're cracking. They got the roads. Okay. So
and also more energy use because we use more energy to pump water, and also some environmental problems too.
So environmental issues as well. Okay. So in 2014, the state legislature passed this law called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. Can you briefly describe what the law did?
Yeah. So what the law actually says is, the state is just relying on locals to develop their own sustainability plans. Sustainability plans
So this isn't a top-down, the state's telling you what to do. Local groups are getting together and deciding how to replenish the groundwater.
Yeah, so they have actually to maintain groundwater levels in a more or less constant fashion, right? So what they did is actually, they passed the, they passed the action to locals. They have to develop their own groundwater sustainability plans, and they have to do that from now till 2020. In 2020, they have to start implementing them, and they have till 2040 to achieve what we call sustainability.
Did all of them have to do it by 2020, or just like the worst recharge basins?
Yeah, the critically and high.
The worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case. There's some other basins that are not so overdrafted, that are not overdrafted.
They gave them a little extra time
till 2022.
A couple of years. But there's these local groundwater sustainability agencies. I think the key word there is sustainability.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of the issue here, right? So they can do a few things. Number one, they have to have this plan that you set up. So it says that, okay, we're going to do a situation where we're going to be putting in as much into the groundwater as we're taking out. They can impose fees.
Yes.
On people. They can manage water activities, and they can do inspections.
Yes.
So this is a big change. I mean, for a long time, California was one of the few states that didn't manage groundwater. Even Texas was managing groundwater, but we weren't in California. And the timeline, different things have to be done at a certain time. Like, for example, 2018, they're supposed to be submitting their sustainability plan to the Department of Water Resources. And then by 2040, the sustainability plan has to be achieved. So the target is 2040.
So by 2040, we have to achieve what we call sustainability.
Okay, so in your recent report, you said that, quote, recharge can be a relatively cost-effective way to store water for later use. So what needs to be considered before deciding whether to expand recharge activities?
So actually, there are several reports that are saying or that reported that the groundwater recharge can be a really cost-effective action. So some of them. As I said, that the cost could be about $100, more or less. There's some actions that can be more costly, but definitely it's less costly than surface reservoirs or desalination or other sources of water.
It's much less expensive, it looks like. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. Well, one thing we're going to talk about also when we come back is how much water can actually be recharged. And we had a very wet year in 2017. What could we have done in 2017? And what does it tell us about potential groundwater recharge to help solve California's perennial water problems? That conversation in a moment. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back. I'm Mark Keppler with the Maddy Institute. We're talking to Alvar Escriva-Bou with the Public Policy Institute of California about groundwater recharge or water banking as a way to save for a not-so-rainy day.
Yeah.
So groundwater recharge appears to be most acute in the San Joaquin Valley. But when you look at the valley, it's not monolithic. There are kind of sub-regions within the valley. What are some of the different regional characteristics of the San Joaquin Valley, which stretches a long way, right? From Sacramento all the way down to Bakersfield.
Yeah. So we have mostly two big hydrological regions that we call. It's mostly the San Joaquin River hydrological region from Fresno north, and then from Fresno south, more or less, is the Tulare Lake region.
Okay.
So there's two big differences here. Most of the water availability for recharge is in the north, like the San Joaquin River has more water than the Tulare Lake. Then the overdraft, is more concentrated in the Tulare region.
Yeah, so people need to understand is the water is in the north and the need is in the south.
Yeah, that's the point. And then we have also differences in the suitability to recharge water, especially in the eastern side of the San Joaquin River, and most of the Tulare region, especially in the southern, the Kern County, are good.
Okay, so it's good
places.
recharge permeability, and I think in the valley they actually call this thing hard pan.
Yeah.
And so it's actually better in the south where we can actually percolate the water down. More difficult in the north. So you got to get the water from the north to the south. That's a key issue. So how is groundwater recharge actually done in the valley? How do they do it?
So there are different approaches. So from the most passive to the active ones. So rivers kind of naturally recharge water in the ground.
It just kind of seeps. Yeah. Okay.
Also, like our channels where they are not lined, they also recharge water. But
which sometimes you have canals that are concrete lined. Those are not.
Those are
not recharging.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also the most active kind of ways to recharge water are in dedicated basins. So you just build a basin to put water in and bring the water in, and then
by the way, I should mention in the Fresno Clovis area they have a lot of recharge basins by the Fresno Metropolitan Flood Control District. So when you have the storm water, it goes into these, I don't want to say like bomb craters, but they're big areas.
Yeah,
they fill with water and then they percolate down.
Yeah, and that's how. And there's also lately has been a lot of attention to cropland on-farm recharge. So you put more water than in years that when you have a lot of water, you put more water than
the fields than you need.
Yeah, than you need, and they kind of go down.
Percolates down. Okay, so 2017 was a very wet year. I was wondering how wet was it, and how much of that could be captured or stored, and how much of it was lost.
Yeah, so. Actually was the wettest year in more than 3 decades. So the last year that was wetter than 2017 was 1983.
83, got to go all the way back to 83 to find as wet a year. Okay.
So actually we had kind of twice as inflows as a normal year in this.
Twice as much?
Yeah.
Wow.
But
I knew it was raining a lot. I didn't realize it was raining that much. Okay.
Yeah, but we did this survey and actually there's a lot of interest and most of the districts in the valley were actually doing programs to do active recharge.
Okay, but so we were on top of it.
But we actually we were not ready for this kind of wet year to take advantage. And a lot of this,
soon.
Yeah, and a lot of this water actually couldn't be used to recharge and went out to the delta actually.
Well, where are they putting the recharge water? When they want to hold the water for later recharge, where is that water being kind of stored?
So the aquifer is a big reservoir. So we can just put the water in there.
There's a river underneath us.
It's kind of a river. Actually, the good thing on that is that it doesn't move fast, because it's really small porous in the soil, so that avoids like moving fast. Okay. So you can put the water in there and can stay for a lot of time, especially in the current area where they have good permeability and they have what we call an endorake system, that the water doesn't go out. So
right. It kind of stays. It's like a lake underground.
And you can take the water out like next year or two in 2 years.
I think that the term groundwater banking or water banking is a really good way to think about this. That you're storing it for a later day. So how much water is available to expand groundwater banking, and what are the limitations?
So there are different studies about how much. Actually, we don't know exactly how much, because that depends on a lot of other things, especially in environmental regulations, in other users downstream. But what we assessed, because we did some assessment of this amount, it's maybe it's a 500,000 acre feet a year could be recharged in average. So there's years that you could take more, and there's years that you actually don't take anything. But that means that if we estimated that the amount of overdraft in the valley is about 2 million acre feet per year, that means that a quarter of the groundwater deficit could be actually filled.
You could solve the problem, a quarter of the problem, by just doing this better. Okay, so up next, what do water managers think about expanding groundwater banking? That conversation in a moment. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back. I'm Mark Keppler with the Maddy Institute. We're talking with Alvar Escriva-Bou, an expert in water with the Public Policy Institute of California, about groundwater banking. So listen, your report, you indicate that water managers say that infrastructure capacity is the top barrier to capturing more water. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So actually, you have to think about how water comes in these kind of flood years, or these wet years. So it's a big flood coming in a really few days and with a lot of water there. So there's two big problems here. We have the timing of the water availability, and you have the location where the water is actually available.
So lots of water, where do you put it?
Yeah, you have to take it, actually that's a real problem, and then convey it to the place where it's most needed. So what we heard from the valley managers is that about 67% of all districts and 75% of ag districts said that infrastructure was the big problem.
That is the biggest problem.
Okay. Yeah, and I like to think about that this is a new challenge here. We actually didn't think about this in the past, because we actually, when we had a flood, we just wanted the water to go out.
Right.
Now we want to take
capture it.
advantages of this water.
Well, that actually brings up a really good point, because you're talking about spreading water on suitable cropland and fallow fields. About half of the San Joaquin Valley, say 5 million irrigated farmland, about 2.5 million acres, are moderately, could be useful for recharge. But there are things that are stopping that from happening. What are those things?
Yeah, there's different things. First, the local conveyance capacity. You have to take the water from where is it and put it in your field. Yeah.
You got to get it to the fields.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is really good for many things, because it increases yields.
And that's been pushed for years. Do drip irrigation save water?
We have 40% of drip irrigation in the valley now. 40% of the lands have drip irrigation, but that's not good for recharge, because the normal kind of less efficient irrigation was actually better.
Right, because you get drip, that's not enough to get the big water flows.
And then also you have also problems with yields. There's we don't know exactly. Farmers are kind of cautious, because they don't know exactly if there's a problem with yields, or there's other problems with their current crops.
So if they put a lot of water on their fields, are they all of a sudden going to something happen with the crops, or is the yield going to go down? Is the quality going to go down?
There's a lot of good research on that, and there's good practices going now, like a pilot projects going on. So I think that we will improve in this.
Yeah, and that's, you're going to need that information. I think farmers are going to be a little skeptical until they see that data. What about government regulations? I mean, you often hear politicians say that's the #1 reason why things can't get done. What do water managers say?
So it was quite surprising to us in this moment, because kind of a third of the valley managers say that that was a problem. We were expecting
a third.
Yeah, just a third.
I was expecting like 2/3 to say that, but that wasn't the case.
We were expecting a much more a bigger problem on this. I think that it's also because it was a really wet year, so there was a lot of water, so there were not many problems. But actually, there are problems on on permits, on approvals, on how to convey this water from some places to other places. So actually, we need some work on that.
But still, infrastructure capacity is still the #1 reason, though this may be a reason down the line. It didn't seem to be in your study. What about funding? A lot of times, we don't have the money. Is that a major barrier to water recharge projects?
Yeah, we also heard that like a quarter of them were reporting also problems with with funding. The issues mostly here are about how to fund, how to actually pay for infrastructure. So, and also it's a problem because you have only these kind of wet years rarely, right? Like one out of 5 years, 3 years. Right. So it's not a thing that you're going to use every year.
That's a really interesting point. So you build this infrastructure for the wet years, but the wet years don't happen every year, right? Once every 5 years.
And it's you have to convince your kind of ratepayers to pay for these kind of things to put this money also.
So what are water managers saying when you spoke to them about any other priorities when it comes to expanding groundwater recharge? What else are they saying? Yeah,
so it was also about the clarity on their surface water availability. So they have some surface water rights, but they actually don't know if they can use these water rights sometimes, because this also, again, happens only rarely. So you have to know if you can put this water or use your water rights to actually to recharge water. So also there's problem.
It's a kind of a cost benefit. If I do this, I want to make sure I get the benefit back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
Yeah, and also there's kind of potential interferences with other users like the environment. So if we don't know if this water actually it's our water or if it's water from someone downstream that is going to use it.
Yeah, it's hard to tag where that water's coming from.
Yeah.
And where it's going.
And then also there's a really big point here is about basin planning and management. So we have many districts in the valley, and they're big and they're small, but they are not they're not broad thinkers because they just take, they have to take an account by themselves. But in these terms of recharge, you have the basin is kind of a unity, right, and a unit. Right. So we need kind of more basin planning and management to kind of keep advantage or take advantage of potential
like joint arrangements, work with other. Yeah, they got to work together. They kind of have a tendency to kind of work amongst just within themselves.
Yes.
Well, up next, we're going to talk a little more about groundwater banking and saving for that not so rainy day. That conversation in a moment. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back. I'm Mark Keppler with the Maddy Institute. We're talking with Alvar Escriva-Bou with the PPIC about increasing groundwater banking that could store millions of gallons of water, specifically and especially in the San Joaquin Valley. So what are the key policy takeaways about increasing groundwater recharge and banking in the valley? So
there are two big questions here. The first one is how much water is actually available. And because we actually don't know that. And the second one is how much of this water is available at a cost-effective,
Right, it's not just because it's there, it's cost-effective to actually recharge this way. Well, then you laid out 6 priorities. Let's start with the first one. First thing you talk about is the State Water Board needs to clarify rules on what water is available for recharge. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so here, this is a legal point. So the board is actually who gives permits on water rights. So we have to know how much of this water is available, but there are many other issues that have to be addressed first, like environmental problems, so downstream users. So we have to know how much of this water, especially in winter times, are available.
Because this is a new thing. Like I said, California is just now beginning to regulate groundwater. It never has in the past, and so this is a new issue, a new legal issue. Second thing you talk about is evaluating the capacity to get available water to the recharge locations. So that's the canals.
Yeah. So it's what we were saying earlier. So the managers say that the infrastructure is the first problem, first limitation. So we actually, we have to address or have to assess how to move water. What's the infrastructure that we have? So, for example, the Franker Canal is a good infrastructure to put water down south, but now also because of subsidence has lost some of its capacity.
I was reading your report. It starts off at 10,000, I think, acre-feet of water, and then by the time you get to the end of the valley, it's 3,500.
Yeah,
because of the subsidence issue. Another thing you talk about is the ability to improve, the ability to actively recharge on farmland.
Yes.
So what about that?
So we think that this is one of the most cost-effective because we already kind of have our, the infrastructure there to bring the water. It's about kind of changing the cultural things, kind of improving the information that farmers have on their kind of ways to.
I want to underscore what you're saying there because I did a deep dive into your report, and what you found was they estimate that cropland recharge would cost about $36 per acre foot stored compared to recharge basins, which can cost $90 to over $1,000.
Yeah.
So it is dramatically less expensive.
Yeah. So there's also a variability on this cost. There is no only a one cost, but yeah. So it's much more it's much cheaper if you do it in your own, because you already have the infrastructure.
And farmers are going to want to know, hey, how is this affecting my yields,
Yeah,
the quality of my product? And so that is going to require some research, which you say is already happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so another one you're talking about is strengthening groundwater accounting.
Yeah, also here, so a farmer could say, why should I do this instead of other farmer doing it, right? So there's a need for incentives to do that. So someone has to pay or give you credit for doing that. In terms of doing that, you need a good accounting. You need to know how much are you putting in the ground to get credit for that. So that needs a good accounting. And this is in the local scale. Also in a basin scale, in a broader scale, you need also to know how much water is available in some places and how much water is needed in other places, and how to make arrangements.
Yeah, and one of the things you talk about is developing recharge partnerships, which I think is kind of important because, as you mentioned, the water's north, but some of the need is in the south, and some of the best places to store that water are in the south. So, but normally water districts, they don't really have a lot of joint ventures.
Yeah, but I think that now, because of Sigma, the need for these agreements, for this coordination is key now in the valley. They have what we say, that there's a lot of basins that have a lot of need. So, and there's other places where they have more water kind of left over. So they could take advantage, and there's win-win situations where you can pay others to do things that can benefit yourself. So I think that's one of the important
And so that's the
things
whole
as well.
issue of groundwater accounting. If you take your water and you move it someplace else to store it in another, you want to know how much water you sent down there.
Yeah, of course, and you have to get paid for that.
And and then Sigma, you're saying this new law is really encouraging folks to kind of get together, work together, so they can meet their sustainability requerits under state law.
Also, because there's good places for recharge. There's places that have more water than others, places that have better suitable land. So you have to kind of put in practice this kind of movement or like a broader view of the valley as a whole.
You got to work together. And I just think it's really interesting, the whole issue of groundwater banking as a really cost-effective way to address this problem. You're talking 25% of the issue in the valley could be handled through groundwater banking.
And we say that it's kind of one of the cheapest options for the valley.
So something to think about, a solution that's cost-effective. I want to thank our guest, Alvar Escriva-Bou from the Public Policy Institute of California, for joining us.
Thank you, Mark.
And this is Mark Keppler from the Maddy Report. Thank you for joining us.
The views expressed in the Maddy Report are those of the individuals participating in the program and do not necessarily reflect those of the California Channel or the Maddy Institute. If you'd like to share your thoughts about the points and opinions expressed on the Maddy Report, visit our website at maddyinstitute.org.